Good morning. My name is Joe Bandel, and I am the last Rosicrucian. This morning we're going to continue our study of the late 14th century and the rise of Satanism in a serious form. And I can't do any better than this passage here, so I'm going to again read some from this passage to give a idea of what was actually going on during those times. Then came the time when it appeared that all of humanity was going to go insane. A good fourth of Europe died out as a result of the plague that broke out in 1347 and lasted for 16 months. After the plague came famine. People ate vermin and dogs, human flesh and entrails. Then followed another epidemic and again famine. Everybody wandered around aimlessly. No one worked anymore. They just waited for death in unrelenting despair. We can't even imagine the horrors that filled the world, the people that lived in the time of the plague. Uh, it's we just can't there's no way. Uh, According to the Journal of the Bourgeois, the country people cried out, "Flee to the woods with the wild beasts. Abandon the women and children. Let's do the worst that we can. Let's put ourselves into the hands of the devil." 800,000 insane flagellants marched through all of France. The entire population was infected by the epileptic plague and began to dance, and as they faced certain death, an orgiastic frenzy ensued that tore down every inhibition. Again, we're talking about the common people. We're tracing uh, the roots of tantric practices and sexuality through the common people. It's already been traced through the nobility and the more highly educated. But anyway, uh, this is big time happening at that point in time. This is a major turning point. This insane population was ruled by an insane king. In France, there was the poor idiot Charles VI, who had lost what remained of his mind in wild orgies at the papal court in Avignon. In Bohemia, there was the Emperor Wenceslas, whom no one had ever seen sober, a delirious madman in whose presence no one could be sure of their own life. In Portugal, there was the dark maniac Dom Pedro, who went insane from his longing for his dead wife. Pope Benedict XIII was suspended from his office, and the Romans raged against the false Pope Boniface. Okay, I don't know if you caught that, but the residency of the Pope, the papacy, was in Avignon for many years, and then there was a split with the false Pope, and there was a secondary Pope that was back in Rome again. Excuse me. And nobody knew which Pope was the real Pope of the church. People renounced the joys of heaven, but in their ecstatic orgies could not forget the misery in their hearts. They were in despair. Nothing means anything to me anymore. Things mean nothing to me. This describes our modern society also. It's just something to think about. We're in some deep trouble. Nothing means anything to me anymore. Things mean nothing to me. These desperate words of the widow of the murdered Duke of Orleans appeared to have been the motto of the entire century. And like I said, our world today, quite probably. There was no longer a king, and worse, no pope either. They were fighting which pope? The one in Avignon, the one in Rome. Uh, Pierre Boyce read the royal letters to the assembled people in Paris, which stated that from now on they did not have to obey any pope, either one of them. Period. The ambassadors of the Pope were dragged through the streets in papal tiaras as the people mocked them, and to the great delight of the people, a monk cried out, "It is better to kiss the ass of an old woman than to kiss the mouth of Peter." That was a monk that said that. Magic came to unbelievable honor. Satan became popular, and all the arts of sorcery enjoyed great favor. The witch masters of every nation gathered in front of the palace of the king and conjured demons by which the king was possessed. The strangest herbs brought to Europe by the gypsies were brewed in giant cauldrons. The poor king himself enjoyed himself with the emerald magical book of Hermes, the magical tablet. Pearls were ground down, and the costly dust was given to magicians so that they might appease the devil. The entire population, even the clerics, enthusiastically took part in these conjurations. Nicholas Flamel built enormous laboratories in order to manufacture gold. In the middle of Paris, right next to the Church of St. James. Again, alchemy. This is alchemy, and we will be talking about alchemy at a later point in time. The mixers of poisons did glorious business in the courts of the dukes, and in the meantime the people were performing obscene dances on the mountaintops to the honor of the great prince of darkness. The people no longer feared Satan, they loved him. He was even imitated in people's dress. Women wore horns on their heads and shamelessly showed their naked breasts and lasciviously revealed their bellies. If you look at illustrations of the time, what they're talking about is those pointed cone type things that stuck out that the ladies wore on their heads. And it's crazy stuff. Astrology, magic, all that. Men's clothing was very tight on their bodies like a stocking and was embroidered with magical signs. Their boots were tipped with pointed claws, and their sexual organ was packed in a pouch so that it would be readily visible. Women's chairs were church pews, and their beds had the form of a confessional, and they dressed themselves in precious material from the priest's vestments. Now, this should be some warning stuff, because this is twisted. This is anti-church. It's reactionary. Its only interest is reactionary against the church. But now the time had come. In an instant, the powerful sects of Satan worshippers rose up and blossomed mightily. From France, they spread out over the entire world and ceaselessly grew. There was not a single village that didn't have a loyal and dedicated satanic congregation which committed countless crimes and which celebrated obscene orgies to the honor of Satan by night. I think that's a little bit exaggerating it a little bit, but it gives the atmosphere of and a movement, and this movement, it was so hard to distinguish the parts of it that were anti-church and the parts of it that were organic Gnosticism, tantric sexual practices, or alchemy, things like that. And the entire from the description that I've read, you can see the entire population was just kind of obsessed with sexuality. If the nobility are obsessed with sexuality, the peasants are obsessed with sexuality, you're going to have incubus and succubus experiences going all over, which come from the lower, the subconscious self expressions, and it's a feeding frenzy of fear and distortions that just kind of feed upon each other with no sense of sanity. Uh, as like you said, the entire population is insane, and this is setting it up for the Inquisition, because the church had to do something. Things were way out of hand. The rot was in the church big time, and something had to be done. It is, and the plight of the common people was horrible. It's unthinkable in today's world that people could live in those types of conditions. This is all the time I have for today. I'll continue in the next video. Visit my website at thelastrosicrucian.is. There's a donation link on that page if you care to donate. I'd appreciate it, a $5 donation or whatever through PayPal. Buy me a cup of coffee and a donut. Anything helps. Share this video with others. Subscribe to it. There is a lot of information going out on my blog right now. My blogs. Some of it has to do with this, but it's all empowering. That's the main focus. I'm between now and the winter solstice, the Christmas time of this year, I'm putting out as much information as I can. So don't miss out. Again, that is thelastrosicrucian.is. We'll get you there. Thank you.